November 2022, and we have here a 1974 Kawasaki G7T. It was one of the most competitive 100cc bikes of the era of the early 70s. Just a little history about this bike. We bought it some years back, and it had been sitting there not used for around 20, 25, maybe 30 years before we bought it. Then we bought it and we left it there for some years as well. And now we finally also got the registration. Well, it's garaged at the moment, but hopefully in the future we will maybe restore it and take it back on the road. When speaking of such bike, one should really look at Kawasaki at the time. It was really putting its heart out on the small capacity motorcycles, putting an effort to it, while also ongoing was the super bike race. Obviously in the 70s it accelerated. They had the KH range, the H1 and the H2, and then further in the 70s they issued the famous Z. But when looking at small capacity bikes, they were really competing with other small capacity, mostly Japanese motorbikes available at the market at the moment. Kawasaki also produced other good and really nice looking actually models from the late 1960s and early 1970s. There were the Kawasaki GA5, and there was also the G3 SS, which I can remember. I have never seen those models in Malta, to be honest, but they are quite searched for by enthusiasts. I have read an article about this bike when it was issued, but the article was written in issued in 1975 by Motorcycle Sport in July 1975. Basically, it expressed that this motorcycle was a very good commuter bike, and it offered so much compared with other bikes as well. Well, there were two main things which stood out as negatives according to this article. The first was that it had no helmet holder, so there is no helmet holder lock where one can lock their helmet and then leave it attached to the bike. And the second was, they are basically minor things in my opinion, but the second was that it had three keys. First one was the ignition key, obviously. The second, a separate one, a different one, was for the tank cap, and the third one was for the steering lock. So one had to carry three keys to operate this motorcycle. Well, the ignition key apparently also matches or also can be used for the steering lock, but the steering lock key cannot be used for the ignition. To weight, it's very lightweight. It weighs around 89 kilograms only when dry, and when wet with oil and petrol it weighs around 96 kilograms. When it comes to fuel consumption, even though it is a two-stroke bike, it does really well. So it does 400 miles per pint for oil, and for petrol it goes for 104 miles per gallon. So it was a really good commuter bike. other than other features of a commuter bike that stand out. For example, the enclosed rear shocks. The enclosed rear shocks are important obviously because it protects it from the elements. When it comes to the engine, it is a 99cc single-cylinder two-stroke, and the frame is double cradle. So there are two tubes going down and holding the engine. As said, was very fuel efficient for the time and for a two-stroke, and it also performed well. It goes around 115 kilometers per hour. One can also look at the stats. It's 11.5 horsepower at 8,000 revs per minute, and it does the 1/8 mile in 11.5 seconds as well. So I think it gives work to a modern small bike actually when it comes to performance. What it has better, in my opinion, than a modern bike is its styling. Its old school styling is lovable, in my opinion. Obviously, I love also, as you may know, classic bikes, so I'm more attracted towards these type of bikes. But yeah, I mean, how can you not love this? This is a little jewel. When it comes to the 1975 rear shocks, they were a three-way adjustable Showa suspensions. In this model, it is also a three-way adjustable suspensions. I am not sure if it was the same mark, so Showa, because I have no label on mine, but I'm assuming that for the 1974 and for 1975 model they were the same, because this one is 1974 as said, and the one issued in that review in the magazine was of 1975. One thing I think I forgot to mention is that it also has a 5-speed gearbox. One thing I'm not clear about is that there are also KH100s. I don't know the exact difference between the KH100 and the Kawasaki G7T Sports like this one. It can be assumed that the KH models were later models, like comparing the Kawasaki S1-50 and the later Kawasaki KH-50, which were issued later in the 70s. But I'm not sure if it is the same case in this model as well. Maybe the KH were issued later with some difference, maybe, but I'm not sure. So if you know, please share with everyone the differences or more information about the two models. Thank you. Today I cannot start it, so I am going to leave the video here, but I'm going to write on it to see how it feels, where the steering, the handlebar is quite wide and the position is very comfortable, and that said, it is very, very light. So it is for sure a very enjoyable motorcycle. I love these light bikes, especially in Malta, where we have very narrow streets and they are the roads are very short in distance. Obviously it needs a restoration, so it needs a lot of work in it, and at the time we are focused on other projects. But it is complete basically, and we can work with what we have and maybe change some bits only. And that's the scope of restoration actually, not changing everything but trying to work and restore the original parts. So a project like this one gives us encouragement to do it someday in the future, because it's basically a set complete. The big question is this: what would happen with a race between this one, the Kawasaki G7 T Sports 100, the Suzuki A100, the Yamaha RS 100, and maybe the Honda CB 100. Would you maybe also add another 100 or 1 to 5 to the list and see them head to head? Well, we don't own the other bike, so we can't have a race between them. Maybe we'll find someday an owner of an A100 or RS 100 who is willing to race. Yeah, but first we will have to get this little baby running, yeah? But I love it. Thank you for watching, and you can subscribe on the channel if you love my videos, and you can also follow us on Instagram, and we have a Facebook page as well, which is nowadays followed by over 70,000 people worldwide. Thank you and have a nice evening.